In the summer of 2021, 4 friends set out on a once-in-a-lifetime hot air balloon ride over Albuquerque in New Mexico. The captain was a licensed hot air balloon pilot with almost 2 decades of experience. However, criminal behavior on the ground and suspect actions in the air turned what should have been a safe and unforgettable experience into a heartbreaking tragedy.
Oh my God! It just blew up. It blew up.
What? So I looked up and I just seen the balloon, and she's like screaming. Everyone's screaming, "The balloon, the balloon!" And it was by itself. I was like, "Well, where's the basket?" So I immediately reacted and I started running this way.
With amazing scenery and miles of blue sky, it's no wonder that New Mexico is a mecca for hot air ballooners. For 2 weeks in October, the Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta brings thousands of visitors from the world over. Hot air ballooning may not be for the faint of heart, but statistically it's quite safe. According to the National Transportation Safety Board, or NTSB, there have been 775 hot air balloon incidents in the United States since the mid-1960s. Thankfully though, most were minor, resulting in an average of just 1 death per year. The worst hot air balloon crash in US history took place near Lockhart, Texas on July 30th, 2016. On that day, 16 people lost their lives when their hot air balloon collided with a high voltage power line while attempting to land. Stricter rules means the number of accidents has declined in recent years, but when they do happen, it's often like a scene from a horror movie. Assistant public school principal Suzanne Montoya always dreamed of soaring over New Mexico in a hot air balloon. Not one to leave an item on her bucket list unchecked, at 65 years of age, now was as good a time as any. Knowing what a big deal it was to her co-workers chipped in to buy her a ticket. They saw it as the perfect leaving gift when they learned she was transferring to another school, and instead of just 1 ticket, they had brought her 4. Taking her 61-year-old husband John was a no-brainer, but with 2 spare tickets, their friends Mary and Martin Martinez would join them too. On the morning of Saturday, June 26, 2021, Suzanne, John, Mary and Martin arrived bright and early for their hot air balloon ride in Albuquerque, New Mexico. The temperature was a pleasant 66 degrees Fahrenheit, the wind was blowing at 10 knots and there was good visibility of at least 10 miles. All in all, it was a decent day for flying. 62-year-old balloon pilot Nicholas Mileski and his Cameron 0120 were regulars at regional events like the Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta and more casual weekend balloon rides such as on this day. Over the previous 20 years, he had earned a reputation for giving his passengers an unforgettable experience. Today's flight would be unforgettable too, but for all the wrong reasons. At around 7 AM, after introductions and a brief safety meeting, they entered the basket and prepared for liftoff. To get airborne, pilot Mileski fired up the propane burner and unfastened the ropes, and the balloon began to rise. Unbeknownst to all on board, this would be the last thing they ever did. The early portion of the flight was uneventful, and the fresh air and vast views out over the city of Albuquerque would have no doubt been invigorating. After around 20 minutes, they reached the city's south side and the intended landing spot near the international airport. It was now time for the pilot to begin his descent. In hot air ballooning, landing is always the trickiest part. However, it wasn't anything he hadn't done before. But his actions the night before would shortly have a disastrous effect. Descending toward the landing spot, Mileski failed to see the power lines near the intersection of Central Avenue and Unser Boulevard. This unwelcome development meant he had 2 options. He could crank up the burner and hope to rise above, or, as recommended in this situation, he could open the vents for a rapid descent. Although the second option would make the crash inevitable, the basket would miss the power line and be closer to the ground. Regardless, Mileski chose the first option and elected to climb. However, the balloon rose more slowly than he expected, and according to eyewitness and surveillance footage, he may have changed his mind and tried to descend at the last minute. But by this time it was too late, and their fates had been sealed. At around 7:34 AM, as shocked bystanders looked on in horror, the balloon slammed into the power line, cutting energy to 13,000 homes in the process. The sudden jolt of electricity tore through the basket and the envelope before severing the lines that connected them. The basket plunged nearly 100 feet onto the busy road below and burst into flames. Dramatic footage shows the detached envelope, now missing its basket and passengers, as it climbed and vanished over the horizon before plummeting back to Earth. In the immediate aftermath of the accident, after hearing what they thought were gunshots, 2 bystanders rushed to the scene. Managing to climb over the wreckage, they shut off the propane and used an extinguisher to put out the flames. However, by then, 4 of the balloon's 5 occupants had died. This was pilot Nicholas Mileski, Suzanne Montoya, and Mary and Martin Martinez. John Montoya was still alive, but died later at the hospital.
Witnesses said that it kind of hit the line high up, rode the line a little to the west, and then eventually the gondola crashed into the roadway. The envelope of the balloon floated out somewhere. We're still trying to locate that. Very tragic situation. Our officers, who arrived first on scene, had a tough time when they saw what they saw. These things are just horrible anytime they happen. We know from experience here in Albuquerque that sometimes winds kick up or.
Both the NTSB and the Federal Aviation Administration investigated the accident. The investigations focused on the balloon itself, the weather conditions, and the actions of the pilot. In addition to the physical evidence, they relied on eyewitness accounts and the surveillance footage from nearby businesses. Footage showed the balloon first tried to climb but began a slow descent before striking the power lines. Neither the NTSB nor the FAA found any evidence of equipment malfunctions or failures. This meant that pilot error was to blame. Both the NTSB and the FAA concluded that pilot Nicholas Mileski had misjudged his approach and failed to maintain distance between his balloon and the lines he ultimately struck. However, that wasn't the end of the story. An autopsy showed that Mileski had THC, alcohol, and other illicit substances in his system, which investigators believed impaired his ability to recognize the hazard, think clearly, and respond effectively and in a timely manner. The toxicologist said the results showed recent use, but not necessarily right before the accident, but was consistent with partying the night before. Sadly, it's unlikely his passengers would have ever set foot in his balloon if they knew he was at least partly under the influence. The Albuquerque hot air ballooning accident was the deadliest hot air balloon crash in the United States since the Lockhart incident in Texas in 2016. If you found value in today's video, I'd love it if you subscribed and joined me for the next one. To learn about the Virginia hot air balloon tragedy, you can click the link on screen. And, as always, thanks for watching.